It is so good to see you. Welcome to KREM 2 News at Noon. I'm Laura Papetti, and we're going to begin with weather. Thomas Patrick is standing by, and it feels like we keep getting this repeating weather cycle, Thomas, of being really cold in the morning, pretty frost, sunny in the afternoon. Are we going to see changes, and are we going to see maybe a little more rain or snow anytime soon?
There will be some bumps in the road this upcoming Friday, and then beyond that, we'll certainly unlock a much more active weather pattern. In the meantime, same old, same old. And you're not kidding about that frost sunshine cycle. I was just noticing some of the cars in the parking lot where the shade falls on the ground. There's still some frost in those shady spots. But the sunshine has melted everything else away. 28 degrees is the current temperature. By the way, official temperatures are kept in the shade, so it does feel a little bit nicer in the direct sunlight out there. And most of these current temperatures are either 20s and 30s, just kind of straddling that 30-degree mark across the inland northwest. And wouldn't you know, it was 34 degrees yesterday. And with this extremely consistent weather pattern, I'm going to forecast 34 again today. No reason to really change the high temperature forecast if it has been this consistent. By the way, it's been 34 degrees yesterday, Sunday, and Saturday. So this would actually be 4 days in a row of exactly 34 degrees. That is how consistent it has been recently. So I'm more interested on when things will finally change, because it has to sooner or later. Big time weather system should bump into the inland northwest by this upcoming Friday, as I alluded to. And coming up, I'll break this down into more detail and show you where rain and snow chances will lie starting on this date and then forward from there.
We are learning more details about the shooting death of a 13-year-old boy in Hillyard that happened over the weekend. Spokane police found 13-year-old Gavin Looper on Hilroy Avenue with multiple gunshot wounds. He later died at the hospital. The medical examiner says the manner of death is homicide. On the night of his death, Gavin's family held a candlelight vigil at Hart Park to honor his memory. Gavin's mother, in the meantime, shared a statement with KREM 2 showing appreciation to the community, saying, quote, "No one wants this tragedy, but it is bittersweet to see the community really show up for us, to see how many lives my sweet boy reached." She goes on to say, quote, "I just want everyone to remember my silly, kind boy for who he was, a beautiful soul and a great kid, and not for this tragedy. I also want people to know he has loving, present parents, and again, he's a great kid." His mom, Renee, started a GoFundMe to cover Gavin's funeral costs. You can find that link. It's posted on our website, krem.com. It is 3 minutes past noon right now. President Donald Trump continues to order sweeping changes, from a federal aid freeze to reshaping the military. Natalie Brand sorts through some of the new directives and some of the confusion that's happening from the White House.
In a flurry of new actions, President Trump is pausing federal grants and loans as of 5 p.m. today, potentially impacting everything from higher education to small businesses. The Office of Management and Budget is directing federal agencies to assess compliance with President Trump's priorities. The freeze memo specifically mentions financial assistance for foreign aid, what it calls woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. Senate Democrats say the congressionally approved investments are not optional, they're law.
No matter how much he may believe he does, the president does not have the authority to ignore the law, and we're going to fight this in every way that we can.
The memo states the freeze will not impact Social Security, Medicare, or assistance provided directly to individuals.
President Trump also signed an executive order which paves the way for his administration to reinstate a ban on transgender military members.
We will get transgender ideology the hell out of our military. It's going to be gone.
The new executive order directs the Pentagon to determine a policy for transgender service members based on readiness, and argues expressing a false gender identity different from an individual's sex cannot satisfy the rigorous standards necessary for military service. Army veteran Layla Ireland and her husband are both transgender.
When we hear this executive order saying that we're not worthy of service, it is unnerving. It's disheartening to hear.
Groups, including the Human Rights Campaign, say they intend to sue.
We believe this is unconstitutional because it singles out transgender people for differential treatment in a way that harms the military.
Legal challenges on the issue during the first Trump administration went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
In his fourth executive order as Washington governor, Bob Ferguson is creating a task force to protect immigrant families. The order focuses on the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services and is calling for the department to establish a plan for what will happen to families that might be broken up by deportations. The order is supposed to go hand in hand with the Keep Washington Working Act, which limits local law enforcement from helping with federal immigration activities. So President Trump also signed an executive order that redesigns the refugee admissions program. The order is impacting a local organization here in the inland Northwest. KREM 2's Connor McAvoy found out how World Relief and a local business owner are taking in the change.
Igor York owns Cedar Coffee on North Monroe Street with his wife.
Coffee brings enjoy for me and a lot of people.
He came to America from Ukraine nearly 10 years ago at the beginning of the Russo-Ukrainian War.
The war started for me 2014, and I started looking for where can I go.
He says the process to become a U.S. citizen and Spokane business owner was made easier thanks to World Relief Spokane. It's an agency through the federal government designed to help those coming to Spokane from other countries.
We assist people in moving to Spokane from, this year, over 51 countries around the world.
It's an invitation Executive Director Christy Armstrong says isn't available anymore. This is after President Trump signed an executive order the day he took office for his second term, suspending the United States Refugee Admissions Program. The order says the United States lacks the ability to absorb the amount of people coming into this country, adding it compromises resources for Americans. This means refugees who planned on coming to the U.S. won't be allowed in for 90 days while changes in the policy are made. Armstrong says from October of last year to September of this year, the agency was expecting 750 new refugees in the Spokane area, but this order prevents that.
Just a little over 300 of them have actually arrived. The rest of them will not be coming until that executive order is changed or the suspension is lifted.
Armstrong says even though the agency was aware of the new executive order before it happened, it didn't stop the feeling of hopelessness.
There are people with families and with children and with families that they've left behind in their country in the hope that someday they would be able to come here.
York is sad to see the new order.
I not envy the people who just wait for document and they should be in America in a couple months, but now it's closed the door.
He hopes the stalled resettlement of the more than 400 refugees doesn't last for long, hoping any future changes to the program make it easier for refugees.
I love American dream. If people have a dream in America, you are welcome. Citizens have to do right and good for this country.
Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
An effort to get the U.S. Supreme Court to reconsider its ruling on same-sex marriage is now one step closer in Idaho. Yesterday, the Idaho House passed House Joint Memorial 1, and it's now headed to the state Senate. If approved by the Senate, a letter would be sent to the Supreme Court to request that they, quote, restore the definition of marriage as a union between a man and woman.
It's a bold thing to do in this time and culture that we're living in, but it means it's the right thing to do. Whether it's crumpled up and thrown away, whether the wording isn't exact, or whether it's ignored, it is what we need to do as a body and a people.
This is just a letter. It has no force of law. The courts are going to toss it in the trash. It really accomplishes nothing.
Idaho law defines marriage as being between a man and a woman, a statute superseded by the Supreme Court ruling.